Where the Silence Calls by M.J. Lee. Read by Dan Bottomley. Day 1, Tuesday, April the 23rd, 2019. Chapter 1. The body sat in the chair facing the television. He had been prepared according to the plan. All the clues were there for them to find. Eventually they would work it all out, but they would miss the important one. They always did. He wanted them to know it was him, the catalyst, the instigator, the fire starter. But not just yet. He had so much work to complete first. Important work. He checked the body one last time. How many hours had he spent watching that idiot box, just staring at the screen, seeing the pictures flicker through glazed eyes? But that was what they wanted, of course, to feed the brains of the people with enough cotton wool to deaden the pain and smother any spark that may have existed. Morphia for the masses, Botox for the brain dead, plastic people living plastic lives. He adjusted the man's left arm, placing the remote control into the icy fingers. He propped up the head so it stared directly at the television. Finally, he placed the slippers on the cold, bunioned feet. Must get all the details correct, just in case somebody checked. And he liked details. His whole life had been about details. He stood up and stepped back, staring at the tableau in front of him. Something was missing. What was it? And then he realized the mistake he had nearly made. The man's eyes were closed. How could he watch TV when his eyes were closed? He searched in his briefcase. He knew he had packed it in here. Always be prepared, that was his motto, like the Boy Scouts. He dabbed 3 dots of superglue on the man's right eyelid and then forced it open, pressing the skin back against itself. He repeated the process with the left eyelid. Better. It looked perfect now. They wouldn't understand. None of them would. How had he lived with this lie inside him for so long? The lie that repressed those memories, kept them hidden for all these years, beneath layers of denial, as if they were swaddled in winter clothing. The plan he had developed was good. It had a certain poetic sensibility Shakespeare would have appreciated. It was in his heart, in his hands, and hammered at his head. He had a thirst, a hunger for it. The man sitting here was part of the plan. A small step for him, but a giant leap backwards for this man. So it goes. He took the spray can from his briefcase, shaking it vigorously to ensure the orange paint flowed freely. Why orange? Well, it was the colour of fire, but it was also the colour of the anorak he had stared at that day. It was a small reminder of the pain. He tested the flow on a newspaper and then began to work on the wall. Must get the letter spacing right. It had to make a statement. His statement, but not his words. They came from that day too. The colours, sounds and smells as sharp as if they had been branded on his brain. He checked the clock on the mantelpiece. 10 p.m. Perfect. The evening news would just be starting and the neighbours would be having one more drink before shouting at the kids to go to bed. They shouldn't have to suffer too. Not tonight. He smoothed down the blue gloves on his hands and took the mobile phone off the mantelpiece. Quickly making the call to the emergency services, he ended it as soon as he had delivered the information he wanted them to hear. Now was the time to get moving. He knelt down and picked up the bottle of methylated spirits. It should be more than enough, especially if he splashed it on the armchair as well. He unscrewed the cap, swirled the light purple contents around to mix them well, and poured the liquid over the man's head, drenching the clothes and then the chair, taking care nothing splashed back on him. Finally, he took the green plastic lighter he had bought from the petrol station a week ago and depressed the black lever, watching the small flame pop up from its burner. The ubiquitous cigarette lighter, so dangerous in the right hands, so dangerous in his hands. Taking the wooden spill from his bag, he lit it and watched it glow, with the flame wavering slightly in the draught from the door. He threw the spill onto the man's lap, followed by the lighter. For a second there was nothing. Then a blue glow flowed over the body like the sea breaching a sandy shore, before erupting into a Roman candle of flame. He felt the heat from the man's body immediately, a burning heat like that of a just-lit barbecue. The clock said 22:04. It was time to go. Shame. He would have liked to watch this man burn more, hear the crackle of the flames on skin, smell the delicious aroma of roasting flesh. He picked up his bag and checked the scene one more time. It was clean. He did like a nice clean place. The body was burning fiercely now, the flames dancing up the wall and the armchair beginning to emit a pungent black smoke. It was so beautiful. Chapter 2. The phone call was logged at exactly 22:01. Emergency, which service do you require? Fire. Definitely fire. Can you give me the address, sir? 3rd floor, Rodine House, Wythenshawe. And your name, sir? But the phone was already dead. The call was immediately passed to the fire service and the emergency protocols went into effect. Since the Grenfell disaster, all housing blocks throughout Greater Manchester, especially high-rises, had been assessed in terms of their fire safety precautions, cladding, ability to withstand fires, and number of residents. Dave Green, the incident commander, assessed the data for Rodine House on the way to the fire. Above his head, the siren was bellowing its call to get out of the way. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw the block was one of the old ones. No cladding and no refurbishment since it was built in the 1950s and only 3 stories high. One of the old post-war council blocks, built to wonderful standards, not like the rabbit hutches of today with their plastic composites and plasterboard walls. This building was solid, built to last. The engine raced down Stockfield Road, the siren whining over his head. They rounded the corner into the housing estate, taking another left into an internal courtyard. An engine was already parked well back from the block. The driver screeched to a halt, parking up behind the other engine. Dave Green checked his watch to make sure he knew the exact time of arrival at the incident, 22:12. The engine from Brownlee Road had beaten them there. His driver would not be a happy bunny for the rest of the night. Jumping out of the cab, followed by his team, he stared up at the 3rd floor. Black smoke was pouring out of the flat on the right. No visible flames yet, though. Norman Harrison, crew commander of the other engine, ran over to join him. You were quick, Norm. Roads were clear, Dave, he said, nonchalantly playing down the competition between the crews to see who would arrive first on the scene. We've started clearing residents and checked water pressure. All A-OK, no injuries reported. Thanks, Norm. Green reached into the cab and took out the white surcoat with Incident Commander printed on the front. I'll take over now. He turned back to his driver. Tim, check out Sector 3, rear. Any smoke or flames? Sure, boss. I'm on Channel 1. Tim made sure his comms were working and ran off with a crewmate to the rear of the building. In the courtyard, residents in their night clothes stood out on the grass in front of the block, staring up at the flat and chatting to each other. Kids wearing overcoats over their pyjamas ran around playing tag. Meanwhile, one old lady sat in her wheelchair grumbling, I'm missing naked attraction. In the distance, Green could hear the sirens of arriving police cars, the sound bouncing off the walls of the building and seeming to come from everywhere at the same time. After a minute, a single squad car arrived, its lights flashing, and parked on the grass. 2 coppers and a middle-aged community support officer stepped out of the car, pulling their stab vests down over their bellies. Green immediately took charge, assessing the situation from long experience. He marched over to the local plod. Can you get these people to move back and ask the owners of those things to move them? He pointed to 3 cars sitting in a parking bay. And find a resident of the block if you can. I want to know who lives in the flat. No problem. It was the PCSO who answered, but at least he knew what to do. Within a minute, all 3 cars began to edge out of the parking spaces and reverse slowly backwards out of harm's way. The residents were moving backwards too, clear of the engine and pushed to the edge of the courtyard. One woman, however, was standing next to the PCSO. Make sure you keep the entrance and inner
Sample complete. Ready to continue?